A woman collapses alone on a cold sidewalk, weak, without food, without hope. Her body trembles. Her mind screams that God has forgotten her. She closes her eyes, ready to give up on everything. But at that exact moment, a man appears out of nowhere. He shouldn't have been there, but he was. And what he does completely changes her destiny. What begins as a simple act of compassion transforms into something no one expected, neither her nor him. And what seemed to be the end becomes the beginning of a miracle that only God could write. You won't believe how this story of faith, redemption, and purpose comes to an end. It was a cold November night in Chicago, the kind of cold that cuts through the skin, that seeps into your bones. The downtown streets were already half empty, just a few cars speeding by, people in a hurry to get home, to escape the icy wind coming from Lake Michigan. And there, leaning against a dark brick wall, near a shop that had closed hours ago, was she, Sarah Mitchell. She was 32, but at that moment she seemed to carry the weight of a lifetime on her shoulders. Her brown hair was messy, falling over her pale face. Her eyes, once full of dreams, were now sunken, tired, almost lifeless. Sarah couldn't quite remember the last time she'd eaten anything real. Maybe yesterday morning? Or the day before. The days had become a complete mess. Everything started to fall apart 6 months ago when she lost her job at a marketing company. They said it was staff cuts, nothing personal. But for her, it was all too personal. Because along with her job, she lost the ability to pay the rent. She lost her small apartment, which was still hers. She lost the feeling of having a place to come back to at the end of the day. She tried to stay with her sister for a few weeks, but her brother-in-law made it clear that she wasn't welcome. "You need to fend for yourself, Sarah. We have our own bills to pay." His words still echoed in her head, harsh and merciless. She left with an old backpack on her back and the certainty that she was completely alone in the world. In her first few days on the streets, Sarah still had hope. She would wake up early, go to coffee shops to use the restroom, and try to get ready to look for a job. But it's funny how people look at you differently when they realize you don't have a fixed address. The interviews always ended the same way. "We'll get in touch, okay?" But they never did. And then came the shame. That shame that weighs more than hunger. The shame of asking for help. The shame of looking people in the eye and seeing pity, or worse, contempt. Sarah began to avoid familiar places, walking down streets where no one could recognize her, as if hiding from her own life would solve anything. But the hunger doesn't let you forget. It starts as a discomfort, a slight pang in the stomach. Then it becomes a constant pain, a weakness that takes over the whole body. Her legs trembled when she walked. Her head felt light, dizzy, and the cold seemed worse when you hadn't eaten anything all day. That particular night, Sarah had spent the entire day walking. She had nowhere to go, so she just walked. Sometimes she would go into a public library to warm up a bit, but she always felt out of place, as if everyone knew she didn't belong there. In the late afternoon, she tried to beg for some coins near a subway station. Most people walked straight past without even looking. One woman in a suit even quickened her pace, as if Sarah were some kind of threat. As night fell and the cold intensified, Sarah realized her body was no longer responding properly. Her legs felt as heavy as lead. Her vision began to blur. She tried to keep walking, but suddenly felt her legs give way. It was there, on that cold sidewalk near the corner of State Street and Madison, that she collapsed. The concrete was cold against her face. Sarah tried to get up, but she couldn't. Her body simply wouldn't obey her anymore. And it was in that moment, lying on the ground alone, invisible to everyone passing by, that she felt something break inside. It wasn't just her body that was weak. It was her soul. "God," she whispered, her voice weak, almost inaudible. "God, have you forgotten me? I know I've made many mistakes in life. I know I'm nobody special, but are you still there? Because I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore." Tears began to stream down her face and hot against her cold skin. Sarah closed her eyes, too exhausted even to cry properly. Maybe it was better this way. Maybe it was better to just sleep and never wake up again. At least she wouldn't feel any more hunger, cold, or shame. She didn't even notice when someone stopped beside her. "Miss, hey miss, are you okay?" The voice was male, worried. Sarah tried to open her eyes, but everything was blurry. She could only see the silhouette of a man crouching beside her. "No, I'm not feeling well," she managed to murmur. The man gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "You need help. Let me help you sit down." "Okay." He helped her gently, bracing her back against the wall. Sarah finally managed to focus her gaze on him. He was a tall man, probably in his early 30s, with dark, slightly messy hair and brown eyes full of genuine concern. He wore a thick winter coat, jeans, and boots. Nothing particularly elegant, but it was clear he wasn't out on the street like her. "When was the last time you ate something?" he asked, and there was something in his voice that wasn't pity. It was respect, as if he genuinely cared about the answer. Sarah tried to think, but her head was a mess. I don't remember. It's been a few days, I think." The man shook his head, worried. "Okay, look, there's a diner open on the corner. Let me take you there. Get you a hot meal. Is that all right?" Sarah wanted to refuse. Shame screamed inside her, urging her not to accept charity, not to become another burden to someone. But her body was too weak to heed her pride. She simply nodded, and new tears began to fall. Hey, it's okay," the man said with a gentleness Sarah hadn't felt in months. "It's okay. My name is Daniel Foster, and you don't need to worry about anything right now, okay? We're just going to put some food in your stomach first." He helped her to her feet, holding her firmly but gently. Sarah could barely stand on her own, so Daniel put her arm around his shoulders and supported her as they walked slowly to the diner. The few people passing by on the street glanced at her, but Sarah was too exhausted to care. The diner was one of those classic Chicago ones, with a red Formica counter and swivel stools. The place was almost empty. There was only a couple sitting in a corner, and an older man reading a newspaper at the counter. The smell of fresh coffee and grilled hamburgers made Sarah's stomach churn, but this time it was from real hunger, not nausea. Daniel helped her sit in a booth near the window and sat down opposite her. A middle-aged waitress approached, with that look of someone who has seen it all in life. "What's it going to be, darling?" she asked, looking at Daniel but casting a quick, assessing glance at Sarah. "2 bowls of hot vegetable soup, 2 chicken sandwiches, French fries, and 2 coffees. And you can bring water too, please." The waitress took note and left. Sarah was looking at the table, her hands trembling. Daniel took off his own coat and put it over her shoulders. "You're freezing. Keep him for now." Sarah looked at him for the first time for real. And what she saw in his eyes wasn't pity. It wasn't judgment. It was genuine compassion. The kind of compassion that doesn't need words, that only exists when someone truly sees your pain and decides to do something about it. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice faltering. "You don't even know me." Daniel was quiet for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. Because I've been lost too, in a different way. But I've been, and there were people who appeared in my path when I needed them, people that God placed there at the right time. So now, I do the same." Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. She had just questioned whether God was still there, and now this man was talking about him as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I thought God had forgotten me," she confessed, her voice low and full of pain. Daniel leaned forward slightly, his eyes fixed on her. "He hasn't forgotten. He never forgets. Sometimes we're in such dark places that we can't see him, but he's there. He's always been." The waitress returned with the water and coffees. Sarah picked up the glass with both trembling hands and drank slowly. The icy water went down her throat as if it were the most precious thing in the world. When the food arrived, Sarah looked at the steaming soup in front of her and couldn't hold back. She started crying right there in front of that stranger who had appeared out of nowhere. Daniel said nothing. He just waited, respecting her pain, her gratitude. Everything that couldn't be put into words. "You eat slowly, okay?" he said gently. Your stomach isn't used to it. Go slowly. And Sarah ate. Each spoonful of that soup seemed to bring life back to her body. The sandwich was simple, but it was the best sandwich she had ever eaten in her life. The hot coffee warmed her from the inside in a way she had forgotten was possible to feel. While they ate, Daniel didn't ask 1,000 questions. He didn't try to extract her life story. He only talked about simple things. He said he worked for a non-profit organization that helped homeless people. He mentioned that he lived in a small apartment in Pilsen, a neighborhood southwest of Chicago. He said he liked to walk around the city at night, which was when he felt closest to God, hearing him speak in the silence. I was actually coming back from church, Daniel said, stirring his coffee. We had a prayer group tonight, and I felt like I should walk a bit before going home. I don't normally take this route, but today I felt like I had to come this way. Sarah looked at him, her eyes still red from crying. Do you think that God sent you? Daniel smiled, a gentle smile, full of faith. I'm sure of it. He always puts the right people in the right place at the right time. We just need to be willing to listen and obey. After they finished eating, Daniel paid the bill and turned to her. Look, Sarah, do you have somewhere to stay tonight? She shook her head, shame tightening around her chest again. Okay, I know a good shelter nearby. They have clean beds, hot bathrooms, and the people there are really good people. Let me take you there, okay? We'll see about the rest tomorrow. Sarah wanted to ask, what else? But she was too tired. So she just agreed. Daniel ordered an Uber because she wasn't in a condition to walk much, and 15 minutes later they were in front of Hope House, a shelter run by a local church. Daniel knew everyone there. He spoke with the night coordinator, a gray-haired black woman named Dorothy, and explained the situation. Dorothy looked at Sarah with the same kind eyes as Daniel and said, Welcome, dear. You'll be fine here. Come with me. I'll show you where you'll sleep. Before Sarah left with Dorothy, Daniel put his hand on her shoulder once more. Hey, I'll be back tomorrow morning, okay? We'll talk. We'll see what we can do to help you get out of this. You're not alone anymore, Sarah. Remember that. She could only whisper, thank you, before the tears returned. But this time they weren't just tears of sadness. There was something different there, something akin to hope. That night, for the first time in weeks, Sarah slept in a real bed. The mattress was thin. The room was shared with 3 other women, but to her it felt like a 5-star hotel. She took a hot shower that lasted almost 20 minutes. She washed her hair, put on clean clothes that Dorothy had given her, and when she finally lay down, she pulled the blanket up to her chin and whispered a prayer. God, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why you sent that man today, but thank you. Thank you for not giving up on me. I had given up. But you didn't. Thank you. And for the first time in months, Sarah slept peacefully. The next morning, she woke to the smell of coffee and pancakes. Hope House served a communal breakfast, and Sarah sat at a table with other women who were also there. Some chatted, others ate in silence, each carrying her own story of pain and struggle. Daniel showed up around 9 in the morning. He was wearing jeans, a simple sweatshirt, and that same kind smile from yesterday. He brought a bag with a few things, a new hygiene kit, clean socks, and a small notebook with a pen. Good morning, he said, sitting down across from her at the same table. Did you sleep well? Sarah nodded. I slept better than I've in a long time. Daniel, I don't even know how to thank you. No need to thank me, but you need to listen to me, okay? Because I came here with a proposal. Sarah tensed. On the street, she had learned that proposal usually came with a hidden price. But Daniel's eyes were clear, honest. As I said, I work for an organization that helps people get off the streets. It's not just about giving them food and shelter, We help people rebuild their lives. We help them look for jobs, organize their documents, find a place to live. And I wanted to offer you that. If you're interested, we can start today. Sarah felt her heart race. Seriously? But I have nothing. I don't have a resume, I don't have decent clothes, I don't have references. We're going to have all of this, Daniel said confidently. One step at a time. Today, we'll create your resume. Tomorrow, we'll go to a charity shop to get appropriate clothes for the interview. And by the end of the week, you'll be sending out resumes everywhere. It's going to work out, Sarah. I've seen many people rebuild their lives. I've seen miracles, and I'll be with you every step of the way. Sarah wanted to believe. She wanted to believe so badly it hurt. But the fear was overwhelming. What if it doesn't work out? What if no one hires me? What if I disappoint you? Daniel leaned forward, his eyes fixed on hers. Sarah, you won't disappoint me. You know why? Because I'm not doing this to get anything in return. I'm doing it because God put you in my path. And when God does that, He has a plan. We just need to trust and walk with Him. And that's how it began. In the following days, Daniel became a constant presence in Sarah's life. He helped her create a simple but honest resume. He took her to the public library to use the computers and send emails to companies. He got her donated clothes in good condition, a pair of black dress pants, 2 white blouses, and a navy blue jacket. Sarah started going to the interviews. And no, it wasn't easy. There were a lot of no's. There were a lot of "we'll call you." There were days when she went back to the shelter wanting to give up, believing that it wouldn't work out, that she didn't deserve a second chance. But Daniel was always there, sometimes with words of encouragement, sometimes just with his silent presence, and always with unwavering faith that God was in control. You know, Sarah, he said one day while they were having coffee in a cheap bakery, sometimes we think we need to have everything sorted out before God acts. But that's not how it works. God acts in the midst of the mess. He acts when we are weakest, most lost, because that's when all the glory belongs to Him, not us. Sarah stirred her coffee, lost in thought. I grew up going to church, you know. My parents were Christians, but I drifted away. I thought God was only for goody two-shoes, people who don't make mistakes. And I made a lot of mistakes, Daniel. I made bad decisions. I distanced myself from those who loved me. I lost my way. So what? Daniel replied simply. Do you think you're the first person God uses even after you've made mistakes? Read the Bible, Sarah. It's full of broken people whom God used powerfully. David was an adulterer and a murderer. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Paul persecuted Christians. And yet, God used each one of them. Because God doesn't use perfect people. He uses willing people. Sarah felt something stir within her. A door that had been locked for a long time was beginning to open. Do you think God can still use someone like me? Daniel smiled. Sarah, God is already using you. Don't you realize? There are 3 women at Hope House who have started to have hope again just by seeing you try. Dorothy told me. You're being a light even without knowing it. As the weeks went by, Sarah changed. Not only on the outside, but on the inside as well. She began attending services at the church that ran the shelter. At first, she stayed in the back, quiet, just observing. But little by little, she allowed herself to feel again, to sing again, to pray again. And then, in the 5th week, the miracle happened. Sarah received a call from a small graphic design company. They needed someone to organize files and do administrative work. It wasn't anything glamorous, but it was a start. It was a door. The interview was the next day. Sarah was so nervous she almost threw up on the way there. But she took a deep breath, prayed, and went into that small office on the 2nd floor of an old building. The owner of the company, a woman named Rachel, was kind but direct. Look, Sarah, I'm going to be honest with you. I saw on your resume that you've had a difficult period recently, and normally I wouldn't hire someone in that situation. But last night, I was praying, and I felt like God was telling me to give you a chance. Is that crazy? Sarah felt tears welling up, but held them back. It's not madness, it's God. Rachel smiled. Then welcome to the team. You start Monday. When Sarah left that building, she couldn't hold back. She called Daniel, crying, but this time with pure joy. I did it, Daniel. I did it. They gave me a chance. On the other end of the line, Daniel was also emotional. I knew it. I knew it would work out. This is just the beginning, Sarah. God isn't finished yet. And he was right. That was just the beginning. Sarah started work the following Monday. The first few days were difficult, relearning routines, waking up early, dealing with people. But she persevered, and Rachel was patient, understanding, even maternal in a way. 2 months later, Sarah managed to save enough money to leave the shelter and rent a small room in a shared house. It wasn't much, but it was hers. It had a bed, a wardrobe, a window overlooking the backyard, and for the first time in almost a year, she had an address again. Throughout all this time, Daniel never stopped being there. But the nature of his presence changed. At first, he was the helper, the mentor, the guy who had appeared at the right moment to save her. But little by little, he became a friend, a true friend, the kind you call when something good happens, or when you just need to talk. They started having coffee together not because Sarah needed help, but because they enjoyed each other's company. They started going to church together not because he was taking her, but because they both wanted to be there. And at some point, something changed. Something neither of them expected, but which grew naturally, like a plant sprouting without you noticing. It was a Saturday afternoon, 6 months after that night on the sidewalk. Sarah was in the small backyard of her house, sitting on an old wooden bench reading a book. Daniel had stopped by to pick up some papers she had asked him to help organize. But when he arrived and saw her there, with the afternoon sun shining on her face, engrossed in her reading, he stopped. He stopped because he realized that looking at her was no longer just compassion. It was something more, something that filled his chest in a different way, that made his heart beat faster, that made him want to be near her not out of obligation or duty, but because he had fallen in love. Sarah looked up and smiled when she saw him. "Hey, you arrived early," Daniel approached, somewhat awkwardly. "Yeah, I finished things early at work." She closed the book and made room on the bench. "Sit here. It's a beautiful day, isn't it?" He sat down, and they remained there in silence for a moment. A comfortable silence, the kind that only exists between people who truly know each other. It was Sarah who broke the silence, her voice soft. "I was thinking the other day, Ron, about how my life has changed, how I was literally dying on that sidewalk, and today I'm here, with a job, with a place to live, with people who care about me." Daniel looked at her. "You deserve all of this, Sarah, and more." She turned to him, her green eyes shining. "I don't know if I deserve it, but I know I'm grateful. And I know none of this would have happened if you hadn't stopped that night, if you hadn't listened to God's voice." Daniel felt his heart race. "You knew you needed to be honest, that you couldn't keep it to yourself." "Sarah, I need to tell you something." She became serious, worried. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "No, it's nothing bad. It's just that these last few months, being your friend, really getting to know you, seeing who you are, I realized that I feel something more than friendship. And I don't know if you feel the same, and it's okay if you don't, but I needed to be honest. Because I fell in love with you, Sarah. With your strength, your faith, the person you are." Sarah remained silent, her eyes wide. For a moment, Daniel thought he had ruined everything, that he had said the wrong thing at the wrong time. But then she began to smile. A beautiful smile, full of light. "Daniel Foster," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You're the most incredible person I've ever met. And what if I told you that I also fell in love with you? But I was afraid to say so because I thought you only saw me as, I don't know, as a charity project." Daniel chuckled, relieved. "A charity project? Sarah, you stopped being that on day 2. You are everything to me." And there, in that simple backyard of a shared house in Chicago, Daniel took her hand, and Sarah let him. She let him because she knew that hand had been sent by God, that heart had been prepared by God, and that love, improbable and unexpected, was a gift she never imagined she deserved, but one that God had planned all along. The following months were spent building a relationship based on faith, respect, and genuine love. They weren't in a hurry. They knew God had the right time for everything. They dated for a year, getting to know each other's families, growing together in faith, building dreams together. Sarah's sister, who had turned her back on her when she needed her most, returned apologizing. And Sarah, who had learned so much about grace and forgiveness, forgave her because she knew what it was to be forgiven. She knew what it was to receive a second chance when you didn't deserve it. Daniel proposed to her on a simple night. There was no grand production, no expensive restaurant. He took her back to that sidewalk where they had first met. And there, in the same spot where Sarah had collapsed in despair, Daniel knelt down. "It was here that God changed my life," he said, his eyes filled with tears. "Because it was here that I found you, and I want to spend the rest of my life loving you, honoring you, and walking with you in the plans God has for us." "Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me?" Sarah couldn't even speak. She just nodded, crying, laughing, kneeling on the ground next to him and hugging him right there on the cold Chicago sidewalk, in the place where it had all begun. They married 6 months later. In a small ceremony at the church Sarah had started attending again, Dorothy from Hope House was there, with tears of joy in her eyes. Rachel, the boss who had given her a chance when no one else would, was there too, and so many other people who had been part of that restoration journey. The pastor who married them spoke about redemption, about how God writes beautiful stories with broken lives, about how nothing is wasted in His hands, not even the deepest pain. "Look at this couple," the pastor said, gesturing to Daniel and Sarah. "They are living proof that God never gives up on us, that He can take the most broken pieces and make something beautiful, that He always has a better plan than we can imagine." Today, 5 years later, Daniel and Sarah have 2 children, a 3-year-old boy named Elijah and a 1-year-old girl named Grace. They live in a modest house in Pilsen, the same house where Daniel lived when he met Sarah. She still works at Rachel's company, who has become more than just a boss. She's become family. Daniel continues his work, helping people get off the streets, because he knows the miracle that can be. But now, Sarah works with him. On weekends, she returns to Hope House as a volunteer. She tells her story to other women who are where she once was. She looks them in the eye and says, "I know you think God has forgotten you. I know because I thought so too, but He hasn't forgotten. He never forgets. And this dark moment, it will pass. And when it does, you'll see that God was there the whole time, preparing something better than you could ever imagine." And every time she tells this story, she sees hope blossoming in the eyes of those who listen. Because stories of redemption aren't just for those who live them. They're meant to inspire those who are still fighting. Daniel sometimes looks at his wife, playing with the children in the living room, and still gets emotional, because he remembers that night. He remembers almost not having walked down that street. He remembers almost ignoring that prompting from God. And he thanks Him every day for having obeyed, because obeying that calling didn't just change Sarah's life, it changed his life too. On their refrigerator, there's a framed photo. It's of the sidewalk. That sidewalk. Sarah took the photo one day, a year after they got married. And underneath the photo, she wrote something simple but profound. "Here God found me at my worst moment, and He transformed my worst moment into the gateway to my greatest miracle." Because that's what God does. He takes the moments when we collapse, when we lose hope, when we think it's the end, and He transforms those moments into new beginnings, into testimonies, into stories that will inspire generations. Sarah never went hungry again. She never slept on the streets again. She never felt invisible again, but she never forgot. She never forgot the pain, the shame, the despair, because those memories keep her humble. They keep her grateful. And they keep her always ready to be God's hand in the life of another person who is falling apart. Because that's what Daniel was to her. The hands of God. The voice of God. God's answer to a prayer she didn't even have the strength to say aloud. And today she and Daniel are God's hands for so many other people. Because that's the cycle. You are reached, you reach others, you are restored, You restore others. You receive grace. You extend grace. And all because God never, ever forgets his children, even when they forget him. Even when they think they've reached the end. Even when they collapse on a cold sidewalk. Alone, without hope, God is there. He always has been, he always will be. And when the time is right, he will send someone who will stop, who will extend a hand, who will say, "Let me help you." And that someone can change your life forever, just like Daniel changed Sarah's life, just as Sarah is now changing the lives of so many others. Because God's love is not a straight line, it's a circle that never ends, a circle where each restored person becomes an instrument of restoration for another person. And in this beautiful journey of faith, love, and redemption, no one is left behind. No one is forgotten. No one is too invisible, because in God's eyes, every life matters. Every pain has a purpose, and every fall on a cold sidewalk could be the beginning of the greatest miracle of your life. Sarah and Daniel prove that God is never late. He acts at the perfect time, even when it seems too late. That cold sidewalk became the altar where Sarah's life was restored, and where Daniel's heart found purpose. Today, they live not only for themselves, but to be God's hands in the lives of those who are still falling apart. Because the miracle doesn't end when you are saved. It multiplies when you become an instrument of salvation for others. If this story touched your heart, leave a like, comment what you thought, and subscribe to keep hearing stories like this. Stories that show that, with God, no fall is greater than the new beginning he has already prepared for you. Like this one I'm sharing with you.